for tuning into From the Cowboy State podcast. This is your host, Michaela Getz, and we're joined by Brenna Litynski. This is season 2. I'm going to turn it over to Brenna and let her introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. I'm really honored to be on this podcast. Michaela, you've done a really great job with it, and I definitely admire your work in ag communications and podcasting. My name is Brenna Litynski, and I'm the Ag and Natural Resource Extension Educator here in Albany County, Wyoming, and I've been here since May of 2024 after graduating from the University of Wyoming with my master's degree in animal and veterinary science. So I'm still pretty new, and I'm still very much looking forward to getting to know more of the Albany County community and agricultural producers. One of the things that I love most about working with UW Extension is that it's one of the biggest communities or network of ag-loving people that I've ever met. And the cool thing about us is that we each have our own unique talents and skill sets that we can bring to the table from our personal lives into the workplace. For some people, that's range management or gardening or canning or livestock marketing, but for me, that's art. Outside of my career in UW Extension, I am a fine artist, illustrator, and digital designer, and I do anything from children's books illustrations to paintings and drawings to designing websites, etc. My art stems from a really deep-rooted passion for education, the great outdoors, agriculture, and it's really heavily influenced by the landscapes, wildlife, and culture of the American West. Most importantly, though, my art aims to educate and inspire, and I'm privileged enough to be able to use my skill sets in art in my work in extension. I think the people who are really successful at what they do in any industry are able to apply something that makes them unique and that they're really passionate about into their jobs. And I'm fortunate enough to be able to bring my artistic abilities and design skill sets into my role in Albany County to benefit extension as a whole. As part of my job, that might be hosting various art education workshops for youth or people of all ages, such as nature journaling workshops. I did a bunch of those with Haley Sorg, as well as natural resource and art workshops at local schools that give students hands-on experiences with natural resource education via artistic skills and experiences. Or, more recently, I gave a presentation at the 2025 Farm and Ranch Days on digital marketing and website design. And in my role in Extension, I've also had the opportunity to create multiple logos for Extension as part of my job that are going to be used soon, including new logos for the Pesticide Safety and Education Program and Wyoming Extension Ag and Art Tours, which I'm really excited to talk to you about and our work together later. But overall, I think art is just a tool that's really underused to distill complicated scientific information and concepts into something that's really easily understood by many. I'll give an example from my personal life, which is I illustrated a children's book with the Winter Range Foundation that educates kids about mule deer migration patterns. An example from my career with UW Extension would be taking complex topics in biology or ecosystem science and using artistic mediums and experiences to distill that information down to where it's easily understood by kids. But no matter how complex the scientific topic or even the type of science or industry being represented, art is really something that transcends language barriers and deepens people's understanding of the world around them, or at least reveals a side of things that perhaps we'd never considered before. It connects people in a way that a textbook or an article may not be able to.
That's great. So you've done just a few things with the University of Wyoming, your art background, everything like that. But let's jog back just a little bit. So how did you even get into this field of being an artist?
Art is something that I've always just kind of done. It's always made my heart happy, even as a little kid. And so I'm really grateful to be able to incorporate my skill sets that I employ in my personal life into my work in extension. And the people who know and care about me personally know that art is a big part of who I am and how I see the world. And I'm really passionate about it.
So with having that background, everything like that, you mentioned the nature journaling. What, somebody who's never been talented like that, and I am one of those people, I can't pick up paints, I can't pick up oils, colored pencils, a pen, anything, and draw to save my life. I wish it was a talent I had, but what is one of those benefits of journaling in nature, or when you're going on a hike, just taking a notebook with you and just trying, to jot down what you see or something like that? What are those benefits?
Yeah, and I think Haley Sorg, when we run these workshops together, she's very excellent at articulating this. But nature journaling, you don't have to be artistically talented to get involved with it. It's more about getting outside and using art or even note-taking or handwriting to document your surroundings and maybe learn something about the natural resources or the natural world around you, whether that's a state park in Wyoming or somewhere in your backyard. Just taking 5 minutes out of your day for yourself to enjoy the outdoors.
That's awesome. So what is, I guess, some of your favorite art that you've done for clients, just done for yourself, kept for yourself, what have you? What are some of your favorite pieces that you've done or have, I guess, spoke to you the most, what have you?
That's a great question. I've had the opportunity to work on a variety of projects that I'm really proud of, both personally and professionally. I love pieces that challenge me creatively, whether it's a detailed fine art illustration, a logo, or a digital design that brings a vision to life. Some of my favorite works are those that tell a story or capture something meaningful, whether for an organization, an individual, or just for myself. Since you asked about what one of my favorite personal pieces would be, I would say one of my favorite pieces that I've created for myself, which is actually hanging in my house right now, is a painting of saddles from King's Saddlery. That painting really holds a special place in my heart, but I also love exploring other subjects in my work, especially wildlife art. Beyond fine art, I also have capabilities in website and logo design, which allows me to blend creativity with strategy to help people develop their visual identity, which is really exciting. And again, while I am very privileged to be able to incorporate my artistic skill sets that I have in my personal life into some of my work in extension, my personal work does remain separate from my professional role. That being said, I love creating work that tells a story and leaves a lasting impression. And while there is a clear distinction between my personal artistic pursuits and my professional responsibilities, I love using art to inspire people about the world around them.
And I have more questions on your digital marketing and that work that you've done with your clients in just a second. But one thing that I do want to hit on that I think is really neat and that you've touched on is the work that you've done, with, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the migration book.
Yeah, that was a really fun project that I did strictly in my personal life. It was titled The Adventures of Popeye and Morty, a Mule Deer Migration Story. And it was written by the Winter Range Foundation, and I illustrated the cover and the interior. It was definitely one of my favorite projects that I've done.
And so I think when you have stuff like that, because I don't think traditionally anyways, especially before I started this job, I always thought, okay, you have your art sector over here and agriculture over here. And obviously, growing up and you have your biology courses, anatomy, physiology, obviously those things were originally drawn by somebody. But then I think being an extension, and especially working around you, those things have really become bridged, if that makes any sense. You working on the illustrations for the migration book, I think it's the National Park Service, or they have a whole Flickr account for just photographs that their employees take throughout the year. I think it's just really neat because, like I said, you don't always think about it, but those are the folks who are out in nature, we're out and about. And so having all of that, I don't know. I think it's just a really cool concept and it's really neat.
I totally agree with that. And to add to that, I think it's the hands-on experiences that we have that really impact how we move through the world. And even you with your amazing photography that you do in your personal life, you do so many cool things with that. And I'm sure it influences stuff in your ag communications stuff that you do in your career. And I think that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So jumping to, you had mentioned that you had given a presentation at the 2025 Farm and Ranch Days that happened February 5th and 6th in Fremont County, Riverton. You gave a presentation about digital marketing, helping farmers, ranchers, producers brand or rebrand themselves and tell their story as needed. Those of you who were not in attendance, I was in attendance. Brenna had standing room only in the room. It was a phenomenal presentation. It was great. And I think those are recorded. We can put that, hopefully, if all of that info is out, we can share that in the resources for this podcast. But Brenna, can you take us through? So you've got your work as an artist, you've got your work as an agriculture and natural resources educator. Can you talk us through like how you've bridged that and worked with these clients?
Yeah, and I think it's important to reiterate that, while I do have this personal background in fine art and helping personal clients with digital design and website design, etc., that experience really informs a lot of the programming and information and education that I can offer to local communities at Extension. And it allows me to, give people advice on what they can do to better market themselves and their agricultural businesses. And that was kind of the focus of the presentation in Riverton, was just giving the producers attending that Extension event just some tips and techniques on how they could better market themselves and representing Extension while doing that. So I just kind of talked producers through marketing their agricultural businesses in a digital world. And I think there's a quote out there, I believe it's by Bill Gates: if your business is not on the internet, then your business will be out of business. And I think it's really true, especially for this day and age, and in particular for agricultural businesses as well. And so I just walked attendees through, what is digital marketing, the importance of storytelling, and various things that they could do to improve on their digital marketing portfolio, or how to get started in doing all of that. And so digital marketing, it's also referred to as online marketing. It's basically a promotion of your brand using the internet and digital communication or channels such as email, social media, websites, digital advertising, etc. And while digital marketing is important, that's also not me trying to downplay the importance of traditional marketing too, which is we do a lot of at Extension, marketing our programs via flyers or advertisements, word of mouth, that kind of thing. But digital marketing is really just meant to enhance a business's reach into their community. It provides a platform to a wider audience, and it allows for direct interactions and engagement with their consumers. I think ag businesses in particular, they're really important in their community. They're very community-driven businesses. And so being able to engage with clients and consumers, not just from their local area, but being able to reach those people from other areas as well, is a real benefit of digital marketing. Having your own digital storefront and e-commerce is also a really great advantage. I mean, how many of us don't use Amazon? And I think the thing with ag businesses promoting themselves is giving their clients accessibility, right? Whether that's ease of access or just accessibility to their services in general. And it allows them to stand out amongst their competitors. Having a really cohesive digital marketing portfolio or packet and clear branding will be very beneficial. And I think the reason that maybe agricultural producers don't pursue digital marketing as much as compared to other industries is, it's a heavy word of mouth industry, but there's also the sentiment of, well, we've done it this way for so long, why would we try anything new? And well, it's really an investment in your future. Like a producer buying a new cow or a new piece of equipment or something like that. It's an investment that's going to help them succeed, especially in this kind of market.
Now, being from Texas, moving up here from Texas, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the perfect example that I think of when you talk about this. Branding, doing the e-commerce system so that people can buy directly from you, to me, is the 4 6s. And I know that everybody knows that nationwide, I would argue internationally, and not just because of Yellowstone, the TV show, and not just because of Taylor Sheridan, but one, they have an elite equine program that people compete, like I said, internationally just to be an intern at and to get into. But then if you go to their website, very similarly, like what you've talked about, it's synonymous across the brand. You see the red and the white and those 4 6s, and you know exactly whose website you're on. Mm-hmm. And if you see that anywhere you go, if you see the brand on the horses, on the cattle, what have you, again, you know exactly whose brand it is. You see that, or you have that immediate recognition, and you say, oh, yep, that's the 4-6 from Texas,
Yeah.
you just have that. And I think that obviously it's taken a lot of time to build, but there's just that recognition that comes with it. And then again, back to the website, you can go on there and you can order beef, you can order their clothing or their apparel, you can order this, that, and the other. And it's pretty cool. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
No,
I think that just plays,
example.
yeah, I just think it plays exactly into what you're talking about. So.
Yeah, I think that's a really great example. And I've also seen some of their content, and it kind of leads into what I was going to talk about next, in that they do a really good job of telling their story. I think the art of storytelling for agricultural businesses is really important. I think consumers, they crave connection. They want to purchase something that they feel connected to. A lot of people who live in urban areas or not necessarily in the country, they don't get the hands-on experiences in agriculture that maybe you and I have had. And I know for me, I attended the University of Wyoming Ranch Camp in 2022, and it definitely made me want to change my career path and pursue more of a career in agriculture, specifically with livestock. And I also worked for the USDA as a field technician in Cheyenne. I have to say, it was those hands-on experiences that really inspired me to want to pursue something in agriculture. But like I said, a lot of people, they can't get that hands-on experience. And so a lot of people also live very vicariously through their phones and social media. They crave those experiences and they get those through their electronic devices. And so being able to tell your story as an agricultural producer to people digitally is not only important to market yourself, but at the same time, you're also educating the next generation of agricultural producers and contributors about what you do, maybe some of your sustainable practices. You're just marketing yourself in a different way when you emphasize storytelling. And I think along those same lines, it's really important for people when they're marketing themselves digitally or traditionally, they really need to define their audience. So for example, I'm in my early 20s. I can't afford to go and buy a whole beef, right? I'll get there eventually, but somebody who's maybe in their 30s or has a family that they're trying to purchase meat for in bulk, maybe that would be a preferred audience for someone who's selling beef direct to consumer. Likewise, maybe you're selling some kind of grass-fed dairy health product. You might want to target more of the gym rats or the health conscious people, the people who want to eat healthy products to market that to, as opposed to just the general audience. So picking your market as far as age, what their interests are to match your product is going to be really important as well.
Yeah. I will say the one, I don't know if, who knows if everybody has seen this or what, but the one that I've seen hitting my social media hard right now is that cowboy colostrum, the protein powder right now. Like I said, I don't know if everyone is seeing this, but that is what I am being heavily targeted for. And I will say, I don't know how they targeted me because I should go to the gym more, but I do not. That is all over my social media right now.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think the other thing too is it's really important to set realistic goals for yourself when you're marketing digitally. I said this in Riverton just as an example, but as a former collegiate swimmer, I know that it's really important to set realistic goals. As an example, when I was an athlete, I never said, oh my gosh, I'm going to go to the Olympics. It was, how can I set weekly, monthly, yearly goals that are realistic and I'm not going to be discouraged by, but also challenge me? And that's important with digital marketing as well. You're not going to go viral with the first post that you put on your social media. So setting, realistic goals. Maybe I want to gain 10 followers this month. And then maybe by the end of the year, I want to be able to reach this many people with my email communication. But setting those goals is going to be really important for digital marketing success. Absolutely. And in terms of developing a strategy for digitally marketing your business, or your agricultural business especially, there's a couple questions that are really important to ask yourself. The first one is, who are you? What's your story? What services do you provide? And what's the why behind that? What's the why behind what you do? So the who you are really ties back into the storytelling aspect of all of this. The second big question is, what are your goals? What do you hope to accomplish in 1, 5, 10 years, the next month? Setting those goals is important. How are you going to expand or grow your operation? And what kind of impact does that operation have on your local community? So thinking about those questions, and again, thinking about not only what are your goals, but what your purpose is for your local community, yourself, and beyond. And finally, the last big question is thinking about who's your audience. What age group are you targeting or trying to sell to? And who and where are you selling your services or products to? I think with digital marketing, if you have a website and a digital storefront, thinking about how you're going to deliver products or how and what purchasing options you're going to provide is also important. And I think too, branding and establishing your digital presence is probably the most important aspect of it. You kind of hit the nail on the head with the 4 6s. They have a very congruent, very uniform packet when it comes to their digital marketing, their website, their social media, any kind of digital materials or flyers that they have really flow well together, especially as far as colors and different things like that. So the first thing that I'll say is for what makes a good digital platform or portfolio is having a recognizable logo. So I have developed some logos for UW Extension as well as logos in my personal life. Again, very separate, but with UW Extension, I've done a logo for Pesticide Safety and Education Program and a logo for the Wyoming Ag and Art Tours. And both of those logos, they have text. They tell a story. They're a little bit more complex. They have, a couple of items in that logo. For example, in the Wyoming Ag and Art logo, it has some agricultural plant material and it has a paintbrush, right? So it tells a story, but it's also very simple, clear, concise, and it conveys a message. It's not overly complicated to where you look at it and there's all these tiny pieces and you're like, what's going on? It's still very recognizable. And so while those are examples of logos that can tell a story, you can also create a logo that's more of a symbol. It's clean, simple, but also easily recognizable and something that's meaningful to your brand. And so you can go both ways with the logo as long as it represents your business and what you do. And I will say, I'm not an attorney, but it's always important to file for the appropriate trademarks and copyrights when it comes to your logos. So consulting with someone is really beneficial for that. The other part is your social media platform. There's a lot of different social media platforms, and obviously I don't have all of them. I can't keep up. I think when it comes to the topic of agriculture specifically, there's a lot of people who aren't as educated in agricultural practices as the people who are in agriculture. If you tweet, hey, I'm doing X, Y, and Z with my cows today, maybe the average person wouldn't necessarily understand that. And so maybe other people have very different approaches. But when it comes to me, I recommend having more of a visual platform for agricultural businesses. So Instagram, Facebook, things that can, tie a text to an image so that the message isn't necessarily lost. You're educating people in maybe a more clear way than you would just text. I know I get lost in text sometimes and misunderstand, so having that picture to go with what you're saying is really helpful. And of course, making sure that you're being professional in what you're posting and that you're not posting any kind of misinformation about agriculture is really beneficial to your business. And I think when it comes to social media, making sure that you're keeping your content uniform, making sure that you're not posting a picture of a cow on one slide and then a picture of your hamster on the next one is really important as well.
Well, and like you said, making sure that your ag information is correct. So like if you're posting a picture of a cow, but in the caption you're talking about pigs or vice versa, just check a little bit.
So making sure everything is correct and uniform in what you're posting. And I think too, when you're using social media, having a clean bio about who you are, that's not just a paragraph. That's just, maybe 1 or 2 sentences that says, hey, I'm an ag operation in Wyoming, I do X, and we are a traditional operation, or something like that represents who you are. that's also very clear and straight to the point. We live in a very instant gratification world. And so I think people, they just want their information. And if it's too long, in general, people might not read your paragraph of information as much as we would love to. So, uniform content, the emphasis on storytelling, making sure that you're doing your part with engaging your community, whether that's responding to comments or messages, and of course, networking with clients. And you may also be networking with future business partners, and that's really exciting. And social media is a great tool to get yourself out there to a wider audience, to clients, to future business opportunities. And again, emphasizing that make sure you're posting information that is factual and not misinformation about agriculture or your business or what you're doing is really important. The next thing that makes a really good digital platform is a website. And I think, a lot of people, they don't have websites when it comes to their ag operation. I personally recommend having a website just because it's a landing page that has all the information about your business. It educates people about who you are, but also it allows for you to have the opportunity to have a digital storefront and e-commerce options. I know that there's things that I think about as an artist that maybe other people who don't do art probably don't think about. But the important thing is communicating a message using visual design and thinking about how you want to represent your brand, how you want your brand to feel. And it may be beneficial for producers to consult with someone who is well versed in visual and digital design so that they can help them better communicate their message and their brand, whether that's through an independent marketing company or an individual who is well versed in digital and visual design. I think it's important on websites to maintain the branding that they've developed, whether that's the colors, the logo, making sure everything flows and looks like it's a part of the same company, and that your social media doesn't look wildly different from your website. So that's really important too. And the big thing is accessibility. So if there's a business with an outdated website and there's a business with a newer website, and I'm looking at both of them and they sell the same things, me looking at that as a consumer, I'm probably going to lean more towards the person with the updated and the accessible website, because again, we live in this age of instant gratification, and a lot of people, if it's a dated website, they're going to wonder, okay, is this place still in business? Why is it so slow? How can I get to places on the website? Why are these tabs organized this way? Whatever the reason may be, making sure that your website is accessible and easy to navigate is really important. And I think offering multiple places where they can contact you or a forum where they can contact you is important. It goes back to that accessibility point as well. And make sure that on your website, you consult with a legal professional or an attorney to talk about writing a good terms and conditions policy and a privacy policy for your page. I think that's something that's not always thought about, but making sure that you're following all applicable laws and everything else when it comes to your website and how clients are using it and things like that is important. And lastly, if you're going to have an e-commerce or digital store, making sure that checkout process is really efficient and that you're very clear about any instructions or ordering procedures or pricing that the client needs to know about. And it's also important to think about, Michaela, you probably know this. You do a lot of really great photography stuff, making sure that your images match your brand, that they look professional, but especially when it comes to the things that you're marketing. And I can speak to this example just from personal experiences I've had with a personal client. But for example, let's say you're a direct-to-consumer meat company. Make sure that you're doing a photo shoot of your meat products that not only attracts people visually, but represents, the quality of the product that you're selling and adheres to all applicable laws and everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of my favorite things that you said, the ease of the website, because I will say, as somebody who frequents websites. It's like the best way to phrase that. But there's nothing better than just a seamless, flowing, well-working website. Nothing frustrates me more as a consumer, but as just someone who used to work in digital marketing for 3 years, and we would build websites from scratch, from the bottom up. And when you've done that process, as you know, Brenna, and then you go to a website that does not work well, or it's clunky and photos overtake the menu, or the menu overtakes photos, or the blocks of text when you're trying to read something like that, there's just nothing more frustrating. Or if you're trying to buy something from a small business and you try to do that e-commerce process, like what you were saying, and you just cannot check out, something's not working, something keeps booting you out, whatever, you're like, well, I tried. And then you just go and, you go to your local grocery store, like in Powlett's, Blair's, or, you just kind of throw in the towel and you're like, well, I guess I'll go somewhere else. There's just nothing more frustrating.
And I think the last thing that makes a really good digital platform is that branded communication. So, again, making sure that everything that you're putting out to the public is uniform in how you're representing your business, especially when it comes to digital flyers. Or I think, digital tools can be used to create traditional marketing materials. So making sure that those materials are cohesive and congruent with the rest of your websites and social media and everything like that. And when you're developing additional material, such as a flyer using digital tools, think about, what are you marketing? What's your elevator pitch? So a lot of people think about this when it comes to book publishing, right? They get in an elevator with their editor and they have to pitch their book to their editor in, 3 sentences or a paragraph or something like that. Well, it's kind of the same when you're marketing your business via a flyer or something like that. What's your elevator pitch? How are you pitching yourself to your client digitally or traditionally? So that's important. And what is your packet look like? Making sure that everything's pretty cohesive and looks like it belongs together. And that's not to say you can't change your branding over time, but you still want it to be recognizable to the people who have seen it before. Yeah. So I think those are my just general tips on marketing or promoting your business via digital marketing. But yeah.
No, absolutely. That's great. And hopefully we'll see your presentation at more UW Extension events in the future, because I think it's super applicable to, anybody's personal business. But like I said, farmers, ranchers, producers across the board, whether you've already got a website, landing page, brand, what have you, and you're just looking to revamp it. Yeah, I think it's applicable across the board.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
So we talked a little bit about logos that you have done, and you mentioned that you had done a logo for the Wyoming Ag and Art Tours. Mm-hmm. We, for those who don't know, and really nobody knows except Brenna and I, we actually recorded this podcast in November or December, something like that. And we had Brenna, myself, and then another gal who was on a previous podcast, Haley Sorg. We had put in a grant application with the El Bogan Foundation to get a grant for the Wyoming Ag and Art Tours, this project we're doing. And I'm going to let Brenna go more in depth about it, but fun news, we got the grant. We are awarded for the grant project. So we were a little bit TBD at the time, and we got the grant award. And so great news, Brenna created the logo for it. We're moving forward. So those will be coming to a community near you, hopefully in the future. They're in 3 counties right now, but I'm going to let Brenna talk more about it and then the process of kind of creating that logo and everything.
Yeah, so I'll just kind of give a brief overview of how I got into the project with Haley and Michaela, and then kind of talk with you about what it is, because as much as I do. When I started my job back in May of 2024, I kind of set 2 goals for myself and what I wanted to do in my county, and that was educating and inspiring youth and people of all ages about agriculture and natural resources through educational programming, workshops, etc. And the second goal was assisting ag producers with questions, problems, and or ways to improve their operation via educational programming and outreach. And these were 2 very distinct goals, and they target very different audiences. So the first goal was kind of geared towards the general public that may not be involved directly with agriculture, but has interest in topics like horticulture, gardening, or youth development. And the second goal was oriented towards ranchers, farmers, agricultural producers that live and work in our county or surrounding counties to provide for our community and beyond. And so as I started developing educational programming for my county and thinking about what I could do, I started to wonder how to intersect both of these goals and how I could inspire both the general public about agriculture, but also benefit ranchers and producers in this area, and what partnerships or collaborations could be made to benefit, all audiences and inspire people. So I started reflecting on my own life experiences and, the hands-on experiences that I had in agriculture and what it really inspired me to pursue my career in agriculture. And I really believe that experiential learning, or the memories that we make doing something new or that we love, is what really shapes your future. And those hands-on experiences in agriculture really changed the trajectory of my life and my career. And I think the other challenge that producers, extension educators, and beyond face is inspiring the next generation of agricultural leaders and participants. It's really easy to sit kids and young adults down in front of a projector or a textbook and expect them to be inspired and to want to learn about agriculture, but it's quite another thing to provide them with experiential, immersive learning opportunities that, like Ranch Camp and my time at the USDA did for me, truly makes an impact and a lasting impression. Those hands-on opportunities and experiences are what really inspires people. And, Haley Sorg, she works a lot with agritourism, and it's a really unique way to give youth and young adults those hands-on experiences in agriculture while also generating revenue through educational and recreational activities offered by ag operations. And so recognizing that, hands-on experiences in agriculture is a big part of what led me to be so passionate about agriculture. I also, recognize that, I also asked myself the question, how do I inspire people in my personal life? And so I thought about it, and given my background in art and design in my personal life, I know that I've always used art to inspire others. And, in thinking about my goals and the impact that hands-on experiences in agriculture has had on me in agritourism, as well as my goal to inspire people, I kind of came to the realization that art could be used to better serve Albany County's agricultural community and beyond by connecting people of all ages to agriculture through artistic mediums and experiences via collaboration with agricultural production systems and ranches. And I was like, gosh, I want to do some kind of program in Albany County. And so I reached out to my boss and I said, hey, I really want to do some kind of agriculture and art tours in Albany County. Maybe someday I'll expand it elsewhere. I'm not sure. Do you know of anyone who would be interested in working with me? And he introduced me to Haley Sorg, who happened to already have the same ideas and was already looking to put together a team, not just for one county, but for a statewide tour of this nature. So it really was a blessing and perfect timing that I was able to meet Haley, who's lovely and an absolute academic weapon when it comes to extension, and then also be able to start working with you in the process. And I think it's also really cool that we all have artistic talents with art, and of course you with your photography, which I think makes this initiative really unique. And so while traditional agritourism activities have become well established as another means of operational profit, there may be untapped potential to integrating artistic programs into agritourism offerings. And I've noticed even in Albany County with the nature journaling classes that I've done with Haley Sorg last summer, being able to have people out in nature who may or may not be artistically talented, but being able to experience the outdoors in a new way through art was really beneficial and really well received. And so I'm really excited to see how that goes with the Wyoming Ag and Art tours that we're all working on as well. I think it's like the nature journaling, in a weird way, it's like taking notes in a class to better understand and absorb information. Well, with journaling classes, you're learning about the natural world and the outdoors by doing art instead of taking notes. And so I think with the Wyoming Ag and Art Tours, having visitors come to a host ranch where not only the producer is being able to market what they're doing to visiting people, but they're also able to experience agriculture through art by experiencing the demonstrations and maybe local vendors that will come to this event. So I'm really excited to be working with you both on this. I think it's going to be amazing.
No, I completely agree. I will say when Haley approached, us, you, and then I was a little bit skeptical. Oh, that was not a word. Skeptical. Because, I just heard ag and art and I was like, oh, okay. Like I wasn't sure. But then as we continue to meet with folks who are going to be on our planning committees, and as just, the core three of us continue to meet, it's becoming a fully formed shape. And it's just, I don't know. I think it's going to be a really fun, really interactive, really great way for people who are maybe they're really into agriculture and maybe they're not so much into art, but they are interested in learning about it. And so this will be that bridged gap, or maybe vice versa. Maybe they're really into art, but they don't know much about agriculture. And this will be that gap. We had a meeting earlier today with one of our tourism entities, and they had suggested, having one of the breweries, come out. And we're like, yeah, absolutely, as long as it's educational. And so fun things like that, because who doesn't, I guess, let me rephrase that. I think a lot of people would want to learn about the process of brewing beer. I think it's really interesting, the hops, barley, everything like that. And we've got a huge production for that up here in Park County. So to me, that's really interesting. That's a fun educational aspect of that whole process. And we've got great breweries around the state. We have Breeze, the elevator right here in our backyard. There's that 10 Sleep Brewery. There's Coors. So we've just got a lot of great entities around. And I think there's going to be a really great marriage of these two fields, which seem polar opposite, but really are not when you get down to it.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the community support that, we've already seen in recent meetings. And I think it's going to have a really great community impact. So yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, absolutely. And I apologize if you touched on this. I guess I didn't think I missed it, but I apologize if you did. We're going to have 3 dates. June 28th is going to be Park County, and all of that, the more detailed locations, everything like that, that's TBD. But June 28th is set to be for Park County, and then Albany and Laramie County are August. Those are August.
So the Albany County Wyoming Ag and Art Tour will be August 9th, and then the Laramie County Tour will be August 23rd.
Nice. Yep. So, and those are Saturdays. For right now, they're one day. Please, if you hear about this and then you see it on social media, please feel free to come to all 3. This is not a you just come to one. Come to all 3 of them. So, and if you hear this podcast, don't hesitate to reach out to Brenna or I. As always, we include Brenna's contact info in the podcast episode details. So don't hesitate to reach out.
Yeah, and I think if you're a host ranch in Park or Albany or Laramie County who would be willing to host something like this, we're looking for multiple ranches in each county on those dates. Please reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you and have the opportunity to work with you, as well as if you're an artist who wants to come and sell their wares or do a demonstration of your craft at any of these events, please contact us too. We're not, am I correct in saying we are not currently charging vendors to come and sell their stuff? We provide a table.
Correct.
We are just happy to have you at the event. So
yeah. And when we say artists, this doesn't mean you have to have a gallery all to yourself and that you have to be currently selling artwork. If you're an at-home artist, you're an artist to us. If you love painting and pottery or woodwork, whatever, please feel free to come out and be a vendor and sell some of your stuff. So, and then the last mention for the Ag and Art Tours is funding for this UW Extension program is provided by the John P. Elbogen Foundation, Communities, Agriculture, and Rural Living Project Fund. So that is the grant program that we did successfully obtain to fund this project. So, all right. Well, Brenna, thank you so much for being on the podcast. And like I said, we will include Brenna's info in the show details.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, this has been season 2, episode 3. As always, this is a University of Wyoming Extension Agriculture and Natural Resources podcast. I'm your host, Michaela Guess. Thanks, y'all. As a reminder, this is a University of Wyoming Extension podcast. The university is committed to equal opportunity for all persons in all facets of the university's operations and is an equal opportunity / affirmative action employer. If you have any questions, comments, concerns about this statement, please don't hesitate to reach out to mgetz@uwyo.edu and we can get your questions answered. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns about the podcast as well, again, don't hesitate to reach out to that email address, mgetz@uwyo.edu. Again, this has been a University of Wyoming Extension Agriculture and Natural Resources podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Funding for this UW Extension program is provided by the John P. Elbogen Foundation, Communities, Agriculture, and Rural Living Project Funds.